What white people do.
Yeah. You know that non-white people, the government gives us free gold-toed socks just for being white. They just fucking hand them out. Remember us come election time.
There have been times when those socks got me through. Some really rough periods when Uncle Sam sends them my way.
Makes you feel successful.
It does, actually. I feel good about these shoes.
When your wife makes a good point, do you take off your shoes and point to your socks? Just be like, do you think every guy walks around with these? Gold on his toes.
You think that's how I win arguments with my wife? You think
that's what I'm down to?
You point to something you're wearing that you're proud of to win an argument with your wife?
I get along great with my wife now. I don't die on every hill now. I just go, all right, even if it makes no fucking sense to me. I just think, like, you know what? It's just gonna be an argument. I'm gonna give in, and then we're gonna do this dumb shit anyway. So why not just act like I want to do it? And it keeps the peace. I slowly die inside. But as we're doing it, I don't need you to act like you care.
You know what? Honestly, I don't really. Yeah.
But so you sound like you're watching a rescue dog commercial.
Aww.
You want one? No, I work too much. Gassing.
Well, I'm sure your wife is always right too. Just
no, she is right a lot of the time.
She is.
See how that works?
Very nice.
Just agree with them.
Do you talk like this?
Ear grin.
Have you done couples counseling? Have you ever done that?
No.
Because you can't talk this way, and you can talk this way to your therapist, but you can't sit there with your wife and say, look, I just pretend what she's saying, which is fucking crazy, makes sense, and a little part of me dies inside. Let's all go get cookies.
No, you can't do that, because then you make that person laugh, and then as much as they fight it, they're on your side.
I know what you're talking about.
You've done that.
Yeah.
I've never gone to couples therapy. Somebody told me, like, that's everybody he knew that went to couples therapy immediately got divorced afterwards.
No, that's not true.
Well, I didn't. I'm just repeating what somebody else said. I said that like I said. I didn't come up with
terrible. I'm a couples counselor. I just think we need to encourage
people. You think I said the world was flat? Sorry.
Well, until I see real evidence.
It's like a cereal bowl, evidently. We're looking down into it.
Right. Have you talked to someone who believes the Earth is flat? Do you know what you would say to them? Would they be swayed by pictures from space, or does that not mean anything to someone who believes the Earth is flat?
It's all done in a studio, man. They do it over in Burbank. No. It would depend on the situation.
Right.
If it was at night and we were by ourselves and I didn't know him and he just approached me, then I would just be like, oh, yeah. You know what? Yeah, I think you're right. I would just agree with him and make him leave. His eyebrows would go up in excitement that he found somebody else that agreed with his way of seeing the world.
Right.
And then I couldn't get rid of him. I don't know. It's quite a conundrum.
And then you'd be with this person for the rest of your life. They'd be a good friend.
Well, what was bad was when I got into conspiracy theory about the banks and the Federal Reserve was you met so few of those, and then those other people they just thought because you believed that those guys were a problem that you then thought the world was flat and all this other stuff. It's like, no, I don't think that. I just think this stuff over there, and then they would look at you like you were a sellout. Like there seemed to be like no middle ground with conspiracy theory. You had to be all in with shapeshifters and lizard people. It's just like, no, I'm just saying the Federal Reserve. It's,
right. You were saying you think in some ways our economic system might be a little gamed. A lot of
Ponzi scheme. Yeah.
And a lot of people agree with you, and they thought, well, because that's a conspiracy theory, you're in on everything.
Yeah, but I thought we didn't land on the moon.
Yeah. And
stuff like that. So then I used to call them the eyebrow raise people, because then they come up, dude, like, you know what else? So I just sort of I'm going to keep my thoughts to myself. Yeah.
I want to talk to you about this project, this movie that you're working on, because it's something that you and I have talked about, because we are friends. We have dined together. We've hung out. Our wives have hung out.
Pictures with big chalices and candelabras.
We did. I had a suit of armor brought in. But you're talking about this movie that you've made is a subject that's near and dear to your heart. It's about being dads. Older dads, right?
Old dads, yeah.
Old dads.
It was something that came about by, not getting my shit together and having kids really late in life. Like I'm 54, my kids are 5 and 2, and I didn't realize like how much the world had changed. Like my daughter's in kindergarten now, and I was in kindergarten 50 years ago. So just the whole way that they teach, like everything, literally, I'd be like, "Oh, you're on the jungle gym," and she'd be like, "It's called the structure." And then I'd be like, "Yeah," and then I'd be like, "Oh my God, I said jungle. Am I, is that borderline racist now? Like, what did I just say?" And you just start freaking out, and just sort of it lives sort of in that world, and then also all of this world now of where, you go back into somebody's Twitter account 8 years. And find a bad tweet, and they're like, "This is who this guy is. This guy's an asshole." And it's like, I always looked at it like, you had to go back 8 years before this guy was an asshole. That's an amazing, like, Lou Gehrig run of not being an asshole. If you went 7 years, like, this guy was totally cool, but in 2014, that one random Wednesday, he was really in a mood.
Yeah.
And it was just weird. Someone who I lean left. I'm not 100% left. It's sort of like, I just thought that whole era was really fascinating to watch people like just trying to just sort of ruin people. Like I understood the beginning of it when they were going after these monstrous people, but then it just became this like these ticky-tack misdemeanors bullshit, and they were just burn them down. It was like a Frankenstein movie. Like they were all coming up the fucking hill. So it sort of subtly lives in that world too.
Right. And one of the things that I relate to you on is we both come from, like I say, a similar part of the country. I'm a little bit older than you, but I do relate very much. When you talk about being a dad, you often relate it to when you were contrasted with when we were kids. And that's something that hits home with me because, I had kids later in life, and they're teenagers. But in the early stages, I remember thinking, this does not resemble the childhood that I have in any way.
Yeah.
Because first of all, the fact that so much care and attention is spent on each child was something that was. No, I'm not saying that. I love my parents, but it was a different attitude. There were 6 of us, and I remember very clearly at any given time, if you ask my mother or my father, where's Conan? They'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah.
No one knew exactly where you were.
They just sent you outside. Like, that was a lot of it. They just sort of sent you outside, and you went out, and you just met other kids your age and came up with stuff to do when you were outside, and then eventually you ran into older kids, and then they just beat the shit out of you. And then you came up like, I did a cartoon for Netflix called F is for Family. One of the first episodes is this scene where the young me and his friend are up in a tree, and these guys start throwing rocks at us and shooting fireworks. And that was based on a true story. There wasn't fireworks, but it was just me and a friend of mine were climbing trees. We're just climbing a tree because that's what you did before there was no internet. That was going online, climbing a tree and risking your life. So we climbed up this tree, and these bigger kids came by, and they saw us up there, and they just started throwing rocks at us until their arms got tired. We were up there, like crying, getting hit in the ankles and in the back. And then you just climb down the tree, and then like, those guys are assholes. And then
this is why you think Tel Aviv is so nice.
It was nice.
It's relative to my childhood.
It was.
No one's thrown a rock at me in 10 minutes. But I remember that, and I bring this up because the minute that my daughter could drive or my son could drive, my wife would check and she could show me on the phone where they were. And I thought, that's just blows my mind. It doesn't.
Like J. Edgar Hoover.
Yeah. It doesn't feel right to me that we are that accountable all the time. And sometimes I wonder if I'm just jealous of. There's like a care and attention.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? And I wonder because when I watch your comedy, when I watched you at Red Rocks, and anytime you're talking about your child, your dad, how the house was tense or there was anger, people weren't dealing with things appropriately. I think, I know what you're talking about. It was an era, and I think I sometimes, when I'm seeing my family and my wife's handling everything so beautifully, for some reason I become enraged.
No, I get that.
Why? Where was it? What do you mean? You're looking him in the eye and talking to them? What is this?
I totally get that. I remember this one time being in like I think a grocery store or something like that, and I saw this kid. He started crying about something, and his mother went over and started hugging him and comforting him. And I just felt this urge to go over and trip this little kid. And then another time, I remember the grocery store, because that's where a lot of moms have like the kids and stuff. And this kid was going like, "Hey, Mom, can I have candy?" And she was just like, "No." And then he started crying, and it made me laugh. I was want to be like, "Yeah, get used to that, kid." So
you enjoy the unhappiness and pain of a child.
I thought I did, but what I realized it had nothing to do with the kid. That was just me with all of my bullshit. I was jealous of the kid who was getting hugged, and then I was laughing at the other kid because I related. Like, I remember when a long time ago I saw Sling Blade when it was in the movie theater, and I remember when he zoomed that guy out of the house in the wheelchair. He's like, "Get out of my fucking house!" And he zoomed him out, and the guy was all helpless. I roared with laughter, and I remember I was with these actors that I was working on something, and they looked at me in this horrified way, and I couldn't explain it. You had to be a comedian to understand. Like, I think actors and comedians, they process pain differently.
Right.
Where actors, I think, are more like examining it. Where comedians, you just pave it over, and it's like you're just laughing, not because you're happy that happened to someone in a wheelchair. You're just laughing. How fucking mean it was. I told you about this. That one time my wife was on the plane with me, and we were going somewhere far, so she had like a tablet, and I started watching a movie, and she had fallen asleep, and I was watching a movie, and I was laughing so hard I woke her up, and then she, when you don't know what somebody's laughing at, and you just start laughing, she's like, "What are you laughing at?" And I was trying to hide it. And she looked, and I was watching Precious.
Oh my gosh!
Oh my God!
It was literally some shit. It just gets so mean. It's just so mean. It pushes
you
through
over. Yeah.
into comedy again. The mother said something so fucking mean, and then they just cut to her face, and she was so sad. I'm not gonna lie. I'm being honest. I was wheezing. I was looking like waving in the eye. I was laughing so hard, the woman I didn't know on the other side of my wife was laughing, and then my wife started punching me in the shoulder. Just gave her like the tablet. No, that's one of my favorite things.
It'd be great if you were
my
a movie
wife
critic.
has such
It really
a
would
big
be
heart, and we're always watching TV, and she's forever getting teared up, and I am laughing my ass off. Like, she used to watch The Biggest Loser, and these fat people would be crying about all the cookies and burgers they were eating. And they were crying like they lost a dog or something. And she would be crying. I would just be laughing my ass off.
So.
No, most of the world is starving. That's why. Like, I went to like India, and I saw this level of poverty that I just made me want to adopt every kid over here. And then you just come back to America, and it's these slovenly kids. I just can't stop eating Oreo. It was just so fucking hilarious. And
This won't air.
and then it's like.
This won't come
And then
out.
what it is because my wife
No one will
gets,
ever hear this.
my wife gets mad at me for laughing. It makes it like, oh, dude, I have worse ones than that. I got worse ones than that.